the intersection of thought leaders and big ideas in supply chain. My name is Samantha Foley. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Turvo and your moderator for our conversation here today. We are live in the studio with two very talented CEOs, and our topic is big: CEO predictions for the 2024 freight market. Really quickly, I want to say hi and welcome Chris Brewer, CEO of River City Logistics.
Sam, Billy, it's been a pleasure. Appreciate you having me down here in Dallas. Hospitality has been great. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely.
It's great to have you with us, Chris. Billy, welcome to the studio, CEO of Turvo.
Thank you, Sam.
You bet. We'll get to your introduction soon, but before we do, for our live audience who's joined us virtually, pop over into the chat. Feel free to engage in the conversation throughout. We'll be tracking and try to weave your thoughts and insights into our conversation. With that, Chris, tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about River City Logistics.
Yeah, so I think before I can tell the River City story, it's important to give a little context as to how I got into freight. I think like a lot of people, people land into freight by accident. Not a lot of people, say that they're going to be in this industry, but the beauty of the industry is that you fall in love with it, and there's a lot of complex problems to solve, and creating and deriving solutions are incredibly fun for me. I started my career first working for a large asset-based carrier in Dubuque, Iowa, where I went to college, and I learned a lot, and it really built a really strong, solid foundation for my professional career. From there, I moved into sales at the time was a startup, kind of more of a startup mode, 3PL, a very successful operation. Was there for a little while, just over a year. Always knew I wanted to be in business for myself at some point in my life, and didn't know that freight was going to take me there, but started River City in 2018. We are a full-service, multimodal logistics operation with a dedicated fleet of assets, terminals in Reno, Nevada, and our corporate headquarters in Dubuque, Iowa. And I really love what I do. I'm incredibly passionate about this industry.
Well, it seems like you've had great success so far, and we'll hear more about that later. Billy, tell us a little bit about yourself and about Turvo.
Great. Sam, really appreciate you hosting today. And Chris, great to have you here. Welcome to the great state of Texas. You can see the beautiful view behind us today. I started my career on the corporate side, then went on to work on Wall Street for the better part of about 12 years. So worked in Morgan Stanley's retail investment banking group, and then finished my stint on Wall Street at JP Morgan in 2019 when I joined Turvo as the CFO, and then just transitioned to the CEO role in July of this last summer.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Billy. I don't know if you want to spend a little time, tell us a little bit about Turvo, where you're at, the company, the growth that you're expecting.
Absolutely. So as far as Turvo is the preeminent TMS provider in the industry. I like to say we provide the platform for our customers to integrate and partner with the best-in-breed technologies across the marketplace and really create their own unique and differentiated supply chain ecosystem that they can work in and work with their customers together.
Nice. It's nice to have that collaborative approach to anything, but certainly in supply chain where things are so fragmented. As we still have folks joining live, I want to make sure that we build that virtual audience and get everyone participating in the chat. So to kind of get us to start and launch us off here, I'm going to start with an easy softball question. And Chris, I'll pose this to you first. Tell us, do you have any big New Year's resolutions?
Yeah, I've actually got a few, and I'm not really a big resolution type of person, but change is oftentimes uncomfortable, but change is good, right? I've worked incredibly hard for 5 years, and I'm talking a lot of really late nights and early mornings. I've got 3 kids, ages 5 and under, and so my biggest personal goal for the year is to take a slight step back and enjoy a little bit of my personal life, spend more time with my kids, take that extra trip to the beach. That's at the forefront of my personal goals. Professionally, your business goals don't change, right? I mean, we are very like-minded with Turvo's approach to offering a high caliber product is the fact that we are going to continue delivering for our clients. We're going to continue and attempting to land new business and convert prospects to clients and deliver for those people as well.
Yeah, it sounds like it's really about customer experience, but I agree with you. We all need that extra beach trip every year. So I think we can all agree with that. I'm sure the audience agrees as well. Billy, what about you? Any big resolutions for the new year?
I like to say I really enjoyed my 20s. I worked extraordinarily hard in my 30s, and now I'm focused on raising my family in my 40s. And like Chris, a lot of those times with your kids are fleeting moments when they're young, so it's really important to spend time with them. As far as Turvo, we're focused on 3 real priorities this year and in 24 and beyond. Number 1, our customers. They're the lifeblood of our organization, and our focus is providing that differentiated, best-in-class customer service to all of our customers, including River City. Number 2, our product. We want to be in a position where we're delivering the most intuitive and innovative product in the industry, and I think we're there. And finally, profitability. We'll talk a little bit more about this, but there's no substitute to running a profitable business in today's market environment.
Yeah, I'm sure every CEO could agree with that. And it's a good segue to our big next topic, which is our content, the meat and the bulk of our content today, your 2024 freight predictions. Before I jump to my panelists here, I want to urge our audience, jump into the chat, tell us, what are your big predictions for the 2024 freight market? Chris, I'll let you kick it off here. Tell me, what do you think is coming this year?
Question mark after question mark, right? I think a lot of us, we have ideas and thoughts, and we hope that they come true, right? I think first and foremost, it's important to note, I'm no economist. I'm going to give you my perspective, and just based on what I'm seeing, hearing. I feel like I'm a little bit at a slight advantage, just in the sense that I hear both sides of the story, right? We've got a dedicated fleet. So my operations team is telling me the conversations that they're having with our partners, our customers, our suppliers, some of the 3PLs that we use for relocations and backhaul freight. We primarily run dedicated contractual business, customer direct. On the flip side is you hear a completely different story, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but it's not all doom and gloom. I think that change is good, and I think we could be on the cusp at some point later this year to see capacity tighten. There are certainly people and entities that have entered the market for which they probably didn't belong in the first place, right? We talked about this last night. It was freight during COVID was kind of like the gold rush in California. Everybody wanted a piece of the pie. And so now we're starting to see people exit the market. And as that happens, capacity will continue to tighten. But I know that's a long-winded response, but that's just my general feeling. That's what I feel is going to happen. And I think a lot of us are trying our best to forecast and plan. There's a lot of bids coming out this time of year. A lot of customers are moving their bids up from the summer to now to, I think, kind of capture some of the current market data. And it's interesting. Billy, what do you think?
We're living today in a very dynamic environment that's impacting the supply chain across the world, right? So we have ongoing geopolitical conflicts that are happening around the world, whether it's the recent tensions in the Red Sea, the ongoing Ukraine-Russia war, the conflict between Israel and Hamas. I think what we've seen is higher inventory levels across the system for a lot of companies, a cautious U.S. consumer going into 24, in some ways labor shortages. And we can't forget that it is an election year as well. So all these dynamics create a really interesting market environment. When I think about 2024, there's really 2 things happening. Number 1, industry consolidation. The Fed has hinted that this year interest rates will moderate, they'll likely decline. From a valuation perspective, valuations are starting to come down to normalized levels, lower than what we saw back in the 2021, 22 timeframe. So I think you'll have buyers and sellers come to a point where they're agreeing more on valuation and price. And then don't forget, we have nearly $950 billion of dry powder in the private equity markets. So what's been happening is that money's been being raised in funds faster than they can essentially deploy it and invest in companies. Number two, we're going to see accelerated investment in this supply chain tech, mainly in cloud-based solutions. And Gartner's come out and said by 2027, that investment will increase by 2.5 times from where we are today. So essentially going from $14 billion to $35 billion by the end of 2027. So everyone's thinking about how to develop, how to put the tech stack together for their individual supply chain. And we're going to see more of that in 24 and beyond.
Yeah, really interesting things happening in market dynamics. Thanks to the audience who's joining in. I've got a question from Brett, and I think I can pitch this question to both of you. Are you bullish on a Q3 2024 return?
You want to start?
Yeah. I think that's the right timeline. I just my personal opinion, I think at the rate that capacity is leaving the market, I think that timeline strikes pretty well with my ideas. I hope that happens. I don't know. 97% of all transportation companies in America are 19 power units or less. So we've got to protect the 97%, and I don't know that those folks can make it another entire year. Quarter four is generally known as the kind of make your money and put it away for a rainy day, right? Your margins are a little bit better.
It's peak, right?
It's peak, right? I mean, that's what we live for in this industry, especially in the products and services that we move. I think it's a necessity. Now, I'm not going to sign my name on that, but I think it's absolutely important that the market does start to turn a little in favor for the 97%, because let's face the facts, if the 97% starts to dwindle, we're in trouble.
Right.
I mean, that could pose a major issue.
Billy, anything to add to that?
I think you have to operate in today's environment and run a profitable business. And when the market does turn, if it is this summer, then that's when the strong players really thrive and make outsized returns.
That's right.
So you have to operate with what you have today. And then once that market turns, you'll be in an even better position to capture more market share and effectively compete with your competition.
Awesome. One more thing from the audience here before we move on to our next segment. Brandon from Denim, shout out. Thanks for joining in today. Brandon says election year. Things are going to turn at the end of Q2. So he's a little bit more positive outlook. So Brandon, thanks for your feedback there. And Chris Jolly says hi to you.
My guy. Shout out to the Freight Coach. If you're not following his content, he's one of the pioneers of producing high quality content that uplifts our industry and doesn't go the other way, which is what we're trying to do, is progress and move forward.
Yep, happy to have you here today, Chris. We're going to kind of transition. We got your view of the outlook and your predictions. As you think about the headlines, it's all doom and gloom that's kind of dominating the news cycle. Freight recession, layoffs, bankruptures. Are you guys thinking about the myths and misconceptions? What are you seeing that's consistent with, not consistent with your view of the market?
Yeah, I'm more of a glass half full kind of guy, more than a glass half empty type of person. I'm a firm believer that if you wake up every single morning and you put your boots on and you go to work and you work really hard, you create your own luck. And we've been able to grow 12.5% year over year in a market which was really bad, right? I mean, I think it just goes to show that you can't believe everything that's being said and spoken about on LinkedIn. And I shared a post on my LinkedIn feed a couple of weeks ago. It was about cleaning up my feed and the content that I read and I consume. And it really changed my feed, but really helped me turn a corner for my outlook of, let's not worry about the uncontrollables. Let's control what we can control. And that's effort, attitude, and at the end of the day, it's results, right? The will to go out, solicit, prospect correctly, and then get a yes at the end of the day. It's not as bad as people think. There are still shippers out there that are taking calls. They're taking meetings. It's just a matter of how bad do you want it and how long are you willing to work for it.
It sounds like it hinges on execution at
Agreed.
the end of the day. Billy, anything to add to that? Any big myths?
Absolutely. So from my perspective, I believe that many of the supply chain tech companies today aren't as well capitalized as what maybe the market is leading us to believe. I hear 12 to 18 months. I actually think it's much shorter. The reason for that is we talked last night, margins are getting squeezed across the board. We're seeing sales cycles get longer, so that the point where you're getting that yes answer from customers is just taking much more time. People are very careful how they're investing their dollars. And this is forcing founders, owners, CEOs to rethink their burn rate in terms of how much cash they may be burning on a monthly basis. Right now, without massive revenue growth within the industry, investors are much more discerning in terms of where they're investing their dollars. And again, leading to the fact that we have a lot of dry powder in the marketplace today ready to be invested. And a lot of companies are doing some unnatural things. So they're discounting price is one. They're eliminating some of the longer term contracts among others. And Convoy is a prime example of what we saw happen in the marketplace. Investors were willing to pay for growth because they were growing so fast. They weren't making money, but investors were willing to pay for growth. Now that the growth has subsided, Convoy focused on gross margin. However, investors weren't thrilled with focusing on gross margin, and they couldn't get to a point where they agreed on valuation, given Convoy's valuation at the time. And companies called their loans, and they quickly went insolvent. So it can happen really, really fast when you least expect it in today's environment.
Yeah, it's interesting to see where we're at and where it's going. Going back to kind of your predictions and your outlook, I'd love to now kind of dive into, Chris, for you specifically, what are you seeing in the market in terms of emerging technologies? Clearly, you've partnered with Turvo. I'd love to get a little bit deeper into that later, but in terms of new tech coming onto the market, being a buyer, from your outlook, what are you seeing?
Yeah, I think in order to answer that appropriately, it's good to give the story of how we got here, right? And I'll consolidate 5 years into 15 or 20 seconds. River City Logistics was an agent in an agency model, and we converted over $50 million in revenue overnight to Turvo, and we were told that was going to be impossible. But your platform, and we'll talk about the reasons that it made it so feasible. Turvo helped us tremendously when we took a deep dive into forecasting what pricing was going to look like for these certain tools. We knew that it was going to be expensive. We knew that we were willing to pay for continuity, fluidity, and other things of that nature. I am for tech, and I think it's important to note that there's a new generation, a new wave of leaders that are coming into this space who grew up with tech. And so I generally like to say I like to be on the right side of history, and partnering with Turvo was certainly that. There's plenty of new stuff out there that's coming to the forefront. I think AI is going to play a real part. I don't know how quickly people are going to adapt to it, but that's one thing that I would keep my eye on for people out there looking to add to their tech stack.
Yeah, AI is interesting, and I shared with you guys an article that was in Freight Waves, written by Grace Sharkey, so shout out to Grace. There was a really cool article, and it talked about AI, and it talked about how in the supply chain sector, the majority of the industry hasn't even yet developed or adopted a data management strategy, and that's kind of that catalyst for AI. So there's all this buzz around AI and all these cool tools coming onto the market, but it doesn't seem like we're ready for it. So I don't know. It'd be interesting, Billy, to kind of get your thoughts on where you see the market going in terms of freight tech and what you see happening.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I would just say I love it when, to Chris's point, when people say something is impossible, because very well it is possible. And I would point out that River City is exactly the kind of partner that we love to have at Turvo. You understand the Turvo vision, you understand the product to help grow your business, and you take a tech-forward approach in terms of how you run your business and integrating and partnering with the best-in-class technologies, which I mentioned before, to effectively run your business. And we love just working with great people like Chris. Sam, to your point in terms of AI and some of those technologies that are coming out, I agree. There's a lot of things that can happen in the industry with respect to inventory optimization, predictive ETA in terms of carrier drops and pickups. But again, companies need a data strategy before they go down that route. And I think that's the one thing that a lot of companies are struggling with is what is their data strategy? How good is their data? Is it cleansed? AI can help you cleanse your data, but you need to have a strategy before you attack that market.
Yeah, and I think that change management piece is also so critical. Is your team ready and the readiness there? So shout out to Ryan Schreiber, who pointed that out in the FreightWaves article from Metaphora. We've got some folks saying hi. Brian Harmon says hi to you, Chris. You're a very popular guy today, so hello to Brian. Thanks for joining in. Shout out. I'm going to transition to kind of our next topic, which is the successes that both River City and Turvo have had together. It'd be interesting to hear a little bit about, what have you seen since going live on Turvo? What have the successes looked like to you and your team?
Well, there's a lot to unfold. I'll kind of break it down in segments. I think the most obvious one for us was putting together a cost analysis on moving away from an agency model where we had no control over the products and tech and TMS and all the tools that it takes to run an effective business in today's market. We had no control over that stuff. So I was like a kid in a candy store when I got to meet with various different vendors and ultimately pick and choose what products that we wanted to use and people ultimately that we wanted to partner with. The biggest thing that we didn't realize until we signed an agreement with Turvo was a $225,000 cost savings on day one. And
wow.
I know a lot of people would probably call me crazy for saying that, but you got to understand the fluidity, the functionality, the way that it integrates with all of the platforms and vendors that we use. We reallocated that revenue that we were going to use for in-house AR, AP accounting and reallocated it and invested it back into the business. That's number one. Number two, we've got over a 90% success rate and driver buy-in on the app. So we're tracking over 90% of our freight, which is up double digits prior to using the previous TMS and tracking apps. So that alone is incredible. We're reducing our service guarantees by double digits. We are light years ahead of delays, weather delays, rerouting, route optimization, and Turvo's helping with that tremendously. At the end of the day, I mean, I can't say it enough, but it's the best TMS that I've ever seen. It's the best tool for us in our business, and we're looking forward to using it for a long time.
That's interesting coming from you because I think you told us last night at dinner that you evaluated 15 TMS platforms.
At least 15.
Before selecting Turvo?
Correct.
Well, I mean, I think it's paying for itself. I heard $225,000 annually in savings, 90% plus driver app adoption.
Yep.
And then those efficiencies you're seeing from streamlining your operations internally. Huge.
And that's great to hear.
Yeah.
When you clarified that it was at contract signing when we were talking about it, that makes me thrilled, given the value that Turvo is providing to you day one, and the fact that you're using the driver app, you have the 90% adoption is awesome to hear as well. We have a killer driver app that really takes the manual processes out of the system, out of your supply chain. So instead of receiving and taking phone calls, it's all done through the app. It's seamless. It's digitized, and it's just another form of how to create efficiencies in your supply chain.
Fantastic. Guys, that is what we had to cover today. I'm going to start to get us wrapped up here. We've had a great discussion. I want to thank everyone who joined us virtually, joined the chat. Thanks all of you for coming online. To close this out, I want to start with Chris. Tell us how folks can find you and how they can find River City Logistics.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. Couple different avenues. I'm very much involved on LinkedIn. I think it's important to have a positive voice in our space. There are plenty of other people in our space. Another shout out to my man Chris Jolly, the freight coach. We're trying to make our industry better, right? If we're not butting heads, business will be better, continuity will be better, our industry as a whole will be better. So let's work together on that. You can find me on LinkedIn, Chris Brewer, our website, rclogistics.com. It's been a pleasure. I'm really, really glad I got to come down here and visit with you all, and appreciate the hospitality, and I'm looking forward to what's ahead.
It's been great to have you here in Dallas in the studio with us today, and hopefully we get you back out soon. Billy, I'll start with any closing thoughts, and then how can people find you and Turvo?
Thank you. It's been great. I want to give a shout out to our amazing team. The Turvo team is fantastic. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for our team and our amazing customers. River City is like I said, the exact kind of customer we like to have on the platform, who's leaning into technology. So thank you for being here, coming down to the warm state of Texas from chilly Iowa, although it's pretty chilly here as well. You can find us at turvo.com, and then we'll be at Manifest in early February in Las Vegas at booth 1517. So come see us. Look forward to seeing you.
Thanks, guys, and thanks to those of you who joined us online. You heard it from Billy. Come see us at Manifest, booth 1517. We hope to see you all there, and we hope to see you at the next Turvo Live. Stay tuned for more details on that. Thanks again. That's a wrap.